Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with the second of two videos covering the Bannerlord gameplay released at E3 2017. This video is going to be looking at the Horse Archer gameplay, whereas the other one we did covered the Cavalry Sergeant gameplay. So I'll have that up as well if you guys want to check that out too. In this one we see the player filling in sort of a similar role to the other video. He's going to be a officer within another Lord's army, so you can see him being issued commands by the Lord. Again, the commands are sort of more broad than the commands issued by the player, which are finely animated. I really like that. I think there were some mods for Warband that animated them to some degree, but you can see every time he tells his soldiers to follow him, he'll do a gesture with his weapon. We see the army looking very like Hunnish, I guess, maybe Mongolian. It's hard to get a look because of the shield. But they're definitely fighting in sort of that same, style, with obviously the horse archers, sort of circling the enemy, just raining arrows down on their general area. We again get a nice look at the banners that the army is carrying. In the other video, they looked to be sort of just sticking up out of thin air, so let's try to get a look at them again in this one and see if they're doing the same. It does sort of look like it. We see the enemy trying to catch them with a cavalry charge and missing pretty poorly there. The dust getting kicked up from the sand is a really nice touch. That's definitely something you'd have to contend with on a battlefield like this. And for them to have it in here, it looks great. So he is really whipping back and forth on that horse. There we go, he's finally starting to shoot again. And the battlefield's already descended into chaos, which sort of makes sense with an army like this. That wasn't very smart of him to cut back across his own men like that. But yeah, when you're trying to circle the enemy and rain arrows down on them, they're not really going to just let you. But seems to be doing a pretty good job of staying away. You can see his lord there telling him to again keep harassing the enemy. And that was a nice touch there, the guy getting riddled with arrows, and as he fell off the horse sort of veered off in that same direction, as if the soldier's weight was sort of pulling him before he finally fell off. And then here we go, him hitting the lines. Yeah, you can see the banners there are just sticking up out of the air. Nobody's actually holding them. They're not attached to anything. And we were sort of speculating in the last video that maybe they were sort of like a UI element to represent different parts of the army, like maybe one of them is the spearmen, the other is like the warriors or swordsmen. But you can see that guy running there, he has a sword in his hand, a shield in the other, and then the banner is sort of just sticking up. And so why they decided to do it that way, I'm not really sure. I think what they should do to fix this is maybe just make it like a backpack type item, like have it attached to the guy's back, and that way he can still use a sword and shield, but it looks like it's actually rooted to a character and not just like this floating like flag or banner. You can see it especially on the cavalry units when they ride by. The thing is just floating in the air. It's, I don't know, but there's still plenty of time for them to fix that, and I'm sure that they will. And here we go with some on-foot fighting. Get a nice another look there at the command animations. This video does not have particularly great bitrate, but that's not their fault. One thing I have noticed is they seem to have chained the animations together for attacks really well, especially when you are doing two different type attacks. So if you swing right and then down, they seem to have chained that together really well. In the last video we saw a really nice one of the guy doing the same attack twice, and he sort of whipped his arm around in a really convincing animation. It looked great. And we're seeing that again here, to a lesser extent. It's not as obvious, but it still looks really good. We see a little bit of blood spatter on his shield there. The blood decals could be a little bit better, but that's not a problem for me. I don't mind. The carnage on the battlefield looks really convincing though. The blood spatter, the weapons and shields scattered all over the place. That's something that Warband didn't do particularly well at all. Is you know, you would have like people fall down, their body would stay. The blood just looked like red spray paint. And aside from their shields, most of their weapons would like despawn on you. Whereas here, you know, everything looks convincingly scattered. You see like spears and arrows sticking up out of the ground. Again, something that you had in Warband that was, you know, just done less convincingly. At least, yeah, now we're getting a better look at his armor, and it looks really, really cool. It's like a leather lamellar type armor over some sort of gambeson. You can kind of see the individual leather pieces to it. It looks really great. And again, we're getting sort of like a layered armor system here, so we can sort of piece these together to our own liking to at least some degree. I imagine like that leather is probably one piece, the gambeson maybe another. I don't know about the tunic, the like bluish tunic he's wearing under that. That might be part of the gambeson. Here we get a great look at the armor. So again, these are sort of layered. So he's wearing like a tunic that comes out. Well, I don't know if that's technically a tunic, but you can see it's like sort of bluish, and then it obviously comes out down here. So that could be one layer, and then we have the sort of like black padded or quilted shirt under that, and that's probably another layer. And then we have the leather armor on top of that, which is, you know, like the topmost layer. Again, I'm not sure exactly which pieces are which. The bottom two or the top two could be combined, but he's probably wearing at least 2, if not 3 layers of armor here. It certainly looks like 3, but whether or not it's 3 in the actual game, I don't know. Let's continue forward here, and maybe they'll give us the Butcher's Bill. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. So he's playing as the Khuzaits, which are the precursor to the Kurgit, if you've seen my my Bannerlord factions video. And then he was going against the Asurai, which are the sort of like Arabian faction. I don't remember the name of the faction in Warband, but it's pretty much like a 1-for-1 transition over. They just changed the name. But it's the southernmost faction, again, the Arabian faction. So we have Lancers, Horse Archers. They look to have pretty much the same foot soldiers as everybody else. Although they have Spearmen. I don't know if they have Infantrymen, but that's a name that we've been seeing a lot of. It seems like rather than giving units very specific names in Bannerlord like they did in Warband, they have a lot more generic names. And they'll be equipped, you know, based on the various factions' sort of like specialties. But they, you know, everybody has an infantryman as far as we've seen, except for the Khuzait here. We don't see them having any infantrymen, but they very well might, and maybe they're just not in this army. But we see both factions with a lot of archers, no crossbowmen though. So whether or not they have them, we don't know. But the last 2 factions we saw, both of them did, and so I sort of speculated that maybe every faction will have at least like one of each, or possibly several of each. First, like, you know, crossbows versus bows, and then depending on how they specialize, you know, they would have more bows than crossbows, but they would still have the option to bring one or the other. For these factions, it's hard to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Khuzait don't. It wouldn't really make sense for them to have them, but who knows. With the Asurai, it would make slightly more sense, but still not really make sense for them. So I'm not super surprised to not see them with them here. But again, they could just not be in these particular armies. Anyway, that's really all I've got for you guys. Just trying to get my reactions out there while the videos are still fresh. And so don't forget to check out that other video if you haven't already. And if you're new to the channel and this is the first Bannerlord video of mine that you've caught, I've got a whole playlist of them. They'll be in the end video slide or whatever, and I'll have them up in the little I button in the corner as well. But I've got videos covering, you know, all the various factions, where they'll be located, what their sort of theme is, which warband factions they're based on, And then we've also got videos discussing like the Battanians and the Empire specifically, and what they're going to be like in game, where they might have come from. We've got all sorts of Bannerlord stuff, so don't forget to check that out. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I always have a great time getting hyped up for Bannerlord with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you back here for my next video.